Today I'm going to be doing a review for the new David Leitch film, The Fall Guy. I'm a moderate fan of David Leitch. There's some movies of his that I really like Deadpool 2 or Bullet Train, and there's some movies that I think are okay, which is like Hobbs and Shaw. I haven't seen Atomic Blonde, but I actually really do want to see that one. And here we are with The Fall Guy. The marketing for this movie, first off, has been incredible. Like, the marketing for this movie really is selling the movie really well, and I hope people are going to check it out this weekend. I'll be honest, with my Thursday night showing, could have been a lot more people. We'll see how the rest of the weekend goes. A lot of this film's marketing is revolving around the stunt team because, David Leitch is a previous stuntman. This is basically his love letter to cinema because obviously him being in stunts means that stunts is a big part of him when it comes to his movie-going experiences. A lot of people are saying that this movie is definitely like a stunts film, but it's also, I think, in a way, like a movie-making film because that's what movie-making is to David Leitch, but it's still obviously definitely like, a stunts-focused film. And for a stunts-focused film, how were the stunts? They were really good. They are really impressive, and particularly when the movie kind of points out the stunts at the end, because there's a few things that I was watching the movie and I thought to myself, that's really good CG, and then at the end of the movie, I'm like, wait, it wasn't CG. It was stuff like that throughout the movie where I would constantly find myself impressed because I was like, this doesn't look CG. Is this really good CG? But no, it was just really great stunts, particularly with a car fight that happens with Ryan Gosling and they're in this spinning iron thing. It was crazy. I swear to God it was CG, and then all of a sudden they're showing it in the credits and they're doing it for real. I'm like, whoa. So, it's definitely like a movies are magic type of film, and it really brings that forth. And it's a really nice icing on this cake. But how is the cake? How is this movie? It's kind of mediocre below the surface. But it's a fun movie. The plot to this film is kind of, we've seen it before with we're making movies, icing to it, and a lot of this stylized action is there to really boost up a lot of it, and the script is definitely the weakest aspect of this movie. This movie has a lot of saving graces as well. David Leitch's action sequences, Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt just being show stealers and just making every scene work. Ryan Gosling makes a lot of scenes work that really wouldn't normally be funny, and he just makes it work because he still in a way feels like he has that energy on screen. He definitely feels like he's becoming somewhat of a personality actor, but at the same time we can trust that he can actually act because we have other films like Blade Runner 2049. So it's nice to see that he's having fun making these movies because this movie looks like it was a blast to make. This movie has, some movies do this in action movies. I don't care for when movies do this in particular. Sometimes when you're watching an action movie, sometimes you think the movie's over and then all of a sudden you have another 30 minutes to go. And I kind of call that the movie, when a movie has a fourth act. Sometimes when you watch a movie you look for 3 acts, and I'm not saying every movie has to do that because I know people like James Cameron said that he thinks Avatar has 6 acts. I was like, okay, that's a way to look at it. I just don't always love when I feel like a movie has a fourth act. You can have 5 or 6, that's fine. In fact, I think 5 or 6 could work, but 4 kind of feels like when you're approaching the end of the third act, you're just kind of like, okay, the movie should be over now. And then you're like, oh, we have a whole set piece and huge other stuff to go. And admittedly, it was fun, so I really didn't care all that much. It's not like I was like, dang, I still had to sit here right now, because I was having a fun time watching the movie. And so that's not really an issue as enjoyment. It just felt awkward as a viewer. At the same time, how is the action in this movie? The action in this movie was good. I didn't think it blew my mind at any moment, but it's also, as ridiculous as it gets, it still tries to stay relatively grounded compared to the extreme stuff that they're trying to film. But at the same time, things do get very bonkers and silly for a lot of scenes. There are a lot of great sequences, and there's a lot of sequences where I was like, yeah, that is fine. But it wasn't no John Wick level, oh my god, the action here is great. But it was awesome to see a lot of imaginative ideas. There's one part of the film where Ryan Gosling's character is drugged, and you start seeing things, and they start to do some really cool stuff with the visuals, but it didn't feel like it necessarily 100% committed to it. I really was hoping for it to go a little bit more bombastic if Ryan Gosling were to be drugged, but it kind of just did little sparkles on the screen. I was like, we can do a little bit more with this. But it was fun. They have really fun uses of unicorns. There's a lot of just random humor, and a lot of that worked. The humor that didn't work with this movie is kind of the Deadpool-esque humor that we've been getting ever since Deadpool, and since David Leitch directed a Deadpool movie. There's a lot of lines in this where I'm like, this seems like something that Deadpool would say. It feels like ever since he did Deadpool 2, he kind of just has characters quietly mutter cuss words to themselves in a weird way that's supposed to be funny. And the same thing happened with Brad Pitt and Bullet Train. I was like, did Ryan Reynolds write this? A lot of things like that. But honestly, it's really not that big of a deal. It's a fun action comedy, and honestly, my complaints are probably just really, they feel nitpicky except for the pacing and the familiarity with the story. And the reason why the familiarity of the story kind of hurts the movie a lot for me is because I love that this is a love letter to stunts in cinema. I like that this movie, takes place kind of in the movie world, but I just wish the story it was telling was a little bit more compelling compared to this compelling pitch that we have for the film. There's moments where it felt like we were going through the average notions that we see in action movies. It was well made. David Leitch did a good job. It just wasn't necessarily good enough to make me forgive the clichéness. Because there's some prime example for me forgiving whatever cliches you do is John Wick. John Wick is so stylized and so much fun where I don't really care how cliche this revenge storyline is. It's a movie that really grips you because of how well made it is. I'm not saying that this isn't a well made movie because it is. It's just the story just felt maybe a little too familiar, considering that it's more so of a comedy and you don't necessarily latch on to emotion like you do with comedy versus a revenge storyline or something like that. But at the end of the day, I had a fun time watching this movie. One thing that does kind of stick out to me is that this movie is getting a lot better reviews than Bullet Train, and I actually prefer Bullet Train to this, and it makes me go like, what the heck happened? Why didn't people like Bullet Train and then people are like people like this? I'm like, I guess like I do get that, it's a love letter to stunt community, but at the same time the people who made this love letter to the stunt community also made this great movie called Bullet Train that got a 53 on Rotten Tomatoes. What is that? Come on, people. Bullet Train's fun, and this is fun as well. If like I said, I slightly prefer Bullet Train. Yeah, this is still a fun movie. I say go see it if you want some fun summer blockbuster-ness in your life that isn't, super big film. And it is a high-budget movie, but it doesn't feel big like we do with like some other films. So it's fun and light, but at the same time, it feels expensive. So I'm gonna give The Fall Guy a 7.1 out of 10. Comment down below what you guys thought of The Fall Guy. Did you guys enjoy it? And also comment down below, do you guys prefer Bullet Train or The Fall Guy? Because I'm very curious how people stand on this amongst general audiences versus critics. So yeah, anyways, comment down below what you guys thought. Like, share, subscribe, and stuff like that. And adios.